Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Vobes One-Eye Kenobi Showbie. An extra show tonight on the, what is it today? The 11th of January 2022 with a special guest. Hello, Dan. We've got Dan from Phoenix History YouTube channel, who you may remember in my other guise as that bald exploring bloke, went to Harrison Rocks.
Indeed, yeah.
And that's right. Welcome to the show.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. It was honestly, it's just, I feel like I said to you, I'm such a fanboy. It's weird.
Well, Dan has just had a tour of the house and the studio. He's met the Essie, and he said because he watches all the nonsense, you thought it was quite surreal stepping in.
It's like you know, and you're familiar with the set out already, and then but you can't put it into place of where things are.
Oh, right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I could picture the stairs separately.
Yes.
I could picture the room separately, but when you link it all up, it's like, oh, now I sort of
now here's a question that people often say. I know that what most people say, when you step into a place, do you think it's bigger or smaller in real life?
I don't know. I said to you, I think the first thing I pictured with yours was it was very cosy, and I really appreciate that.
Cozy.
But it was, I don't know. It was when you showed me those extra rooms, like the other spare room down there, and I was like, oh wow, actually it's a lot bigger than, because I don't remember seeing that spare room, the other one that was down there.
It's been sparingly. Funny enough, people will see it tomorrow in an interesting light, but I can't say any more about that until tomorrow. No, it's not tomorrow. It's Thursday's video. Yeah, because there's another section of that yet to be filmed. And also you've seen where I edit now over on the other side of the room, which I can show people here, but the light isn't terribly good. Oh, well, yeah, that's better than I thought. Look at that. It's all smartened up as well. It's because I had to tidy up the house knowing I had a guest coming around. That's the way it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a sort of a free-for-all tonight because it's an extra show. We've got a lovely guest in from Phoenix History. We want Dan to tell us all about how he got into YouTube and his history channel, about the band he used to play and all of that. And, of course, we'd like you to ask Dan some questions, which would be fantastic. You've got the telephone number up there, which we'll come to in a moment. But also, don't forget, if you want to get our attention in the chat, if you put at The Vobes Show, the @ sign and then The Vobes Show, it comes up orange on our screen and we can see it. So Colonel Craig Ratty out there has already said, so glad you've covered up tonight, not just in your long johns. I don't need my long johns on tonight because it's very mild, isn't it? It's mild.
It is really, I regret wearing a jumper now, especially with these lights. It's kind of like,
well, I can turn the fire down if you're getting a bit hot.
No, honestly, I think we're all good.
Yeah, we're all right, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because Julia does feel the cold a lot more than I do, so we whack the fire up to make sure that she doesn't get too cold. Mr. Mocky says at the Vobes Show, that's it. That's exactly what you need to do to get conversation with us going, which is very nice. Where in Sussex is saying it's mild and moist. It's been blooming mild and moist all day. So, Dan, where are you based?
So I'm based near Sevenoaks in Kent. So
wow.
Didn't take me too long, actually.
I was going to say.
That's why I came a little bit early. I thought I'd surprise you.
You set off at 9 this morning.
So I came down it took me about an hour, which is
wow, that's
pretty good. Yeah.
Because there nobody on the roads?
There are, but it was weird because it was more busier on the motorway, and then the moment you came down here, which is where I was actually more worried about, just on this section here, the Lancing and all that area, but the infamous section of road there, where every time I've come down it's been traffic central. But no, it was really straightforward today. I was like, okay, right, but it was drizzle and it was rain, and I was like,
it's like, I hate that with
I had one. I've got my window wiper, which I've just realised has now started to make this terrible tapping noise when it does.
Oh yeah, it's when it judders. And it
goes, no! That's what's happening when I go home. I'm like,
well, you made it here. Mark Burgess out there says, Dan, how does it feel being live?
Really, I was saying to you, it's kind of odd, like, obviously being a professional musician previously, was that I was totally okay chatting to you, and in the moment, like, 5 minutes was coming up on the screen. It was like literally being at a gig before you're just about to play a show, and you're like, okay, like this. And then I'm thinking, but I haven't got anything to play, and the audience is out there, but you're not here.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really
It is a weird,
surreal.
I mean, it is a weird setup, because for all intents and purposes, there's nobody there. You know, on the one hand, there's absolutely nobody in front. We just had the television screen, big television screen, which used to be my daughter's, actually.
Oh, right.
That she left when she went to New Zealand. I know, she couldn't take it with her, so it's a huge telly. Yeah. And she said, I'm going to sell it. And I said, how much for? Because I wouldn't mind it. She said, if you want it, Dad, you can have it. And so there's nobody there other than the camera, which is my ex-old corporate camera that I used to go around. So it's a nice camera, but it's too big for me to lug about filming on my normal stuff. So
but it looks so professional. That's the strange thing about it. It's like we were sort of saying, I said I feel like I should have some like bits of paper and start shuffling like a news reporter. It's like, you know.
Yeah, there we go. There's the camera. So it does look like a professional setup, as you can see. We do have a phone call already, which is great. So we have to put our headphones on because Dan knows that what we do because he's seen the show. Let's find out who's on the line. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show.
Sean from London.
Hello, Sean from London. How the devil are you?
Oh, wet and damp.
Wet and damp. Yes, I'm not surprised. Is it pouring down or is it sort of drizzly? Has it been a grim day for you?
It's that sort of fine rain that soaks you through.
Yeah, we had a little bit of mist on the seafront earlier today. I took a little stroll down to the seafront, to de-stress, thinking that this great YouTuber was coming in.
The sun will come out tomorrow. Apparently.
Oh, we want the sun. Yeah, I'm banking on the sun coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, I could do with some sun.
Yeah, we could do with that. So anyway, listen, you're through to Dan.
My question to Dan is, if we were to go and have a look at one of his videos, which is the best one to go and see first?
Good question.
To introduce ourselves to Phoenix history.
So I think the best one is actually the one that I put up on yesterday. I'm confused with days now. Yesterday's video, which is the George Vaults in Rochester. And I think it encompasses everything about the channel that I'm trying to sort of get across, which is encouraging everybody to go out and explore their own local history.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff that I do is a little bit underground and it's a little bit dangerous, but most of the time it's accessible for people. And I will make it clear on the videos of like, there's a reason why I'm not giving away this location because it might be a bit tricky for people, but 9 times out of 10. And that one, hands down, Monday's one. Yeah, because I was really proud of that, actually, the way it came out as well.
I'm going to get you just to come...
Sorry, a little bit
like that. Sorry. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, definitely yesterday's video, which is the George Vaults in Rochester.
And why is it called George Vaults?
Because it was originally... The pub was... Originally, it was all part of linked up to Rochester Cathedral and the castle. And you see these entrances for hidden tunnels that were there. You'll see it in the video. It's absolutely fascinating because I sort of spent 20 years now of trying to research individual tunnels within Rochester High Street, and this is really the epicenter of where the rumours started, because you can see they're blocked up, but you can see where they were, and it's a massive vaulted crypt. But the pub was called the George.
Right.
It was called the Saint and George. Yeah.
So when did these?
I've actually seen a video from somebody else where they went down, and you can see where the archway is.
That's right. Yeah. It's absolutely fascinating.
And then I think they went to a church.
Yeah, it might be that, because originally that was on a sort of like an original, they're not really sure totally, but they reckon it might have been something to do with the original Church of St Mary, which might have been rumoured to be one of the first ever churches at Rochester, which might have potentially predated the cathedral, which is so interesting.
What sort of time period are we?
We're sort of talking 10th century,
right.
So like literally the beginning of when everything was sort of wooden, obviously wooden. You know,
so with the Normans then, not
Saxon.
Oh, right,
when Christianity was trying to sort of eke its way through and everything else, and when religion was sort of really starting to become a sort of integral part of. And obviously with the Normans, we know it was the Crusaders and everything else after that. So it was interesting. But I'm really pleased with that one because it encompasses people. You can go down there and you can see it. And you can have a drink in the vault. You can literally have a cup of tea or a drink or anything else. And it's totally encourageable. So, yeah.
Well, I will go off and see that one.
That's really kind of you. Thank you so much.
But don't do it yet, Sean. Don't do it yet. Wait till the end of the show.
Oh, yes.
Yes, there we go. And for anybody who wants to check out Dan's channel, I should say it's Phoenix History. If you just put that into YouTube, I should have put it up on the thing, but you know what I'm like. Just incompetent, really. But I do my best.
I remember being in Cardiff, and there's Cardiff Castle. Cardiff Castle was there, and there was two Americans, I think it was, and they were trying to take a picture. So I said, "Do you want me to take a picture for you?" So I took a picture of them stood in front of the castle, and then while we were chatting, they said, "Why did they build the castle so close to the shops?"
Very good.
Yeah. So what? That was an interesting. What did you say?
Well, for convenience.
Yeah, for convenience. Of course they built the castle. Where else are you going to be? You want to put the castle 5 miles from the shops. I mean, getting down to the spa would be a bright old pain, especially if you've got to get the horse out and the lance.
I then sold them a story that there was a secret tunnel from the castle to the pub.
Ah, there you go. And of course they may well have been.
J.S. Sainsbury's might have literally had, his relatives might have been even earlier. They might have literally set up little market convenience stores before they came into a chain.
I wouldn't mind a little tunnel to the supermarket behind me, because if I could get into Morrison's, in the dead of night, it would make just life so much easier. I wouldn't have to sort of, go and queue up with everybody else. All the riff-raff that go in.
That is my question.
Thank you.
I will speak to you later.
Take care, Sean.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you for setting us off on the phone in. Joe Burgoyne, however you pronounce your lovely name, says, "Did I sort snag face?" Yeah, that's the polite name we gave her. This is the woman who parks in my space. I haven't sorted it, and the reason is that she'd moved the car the following day before I'd got to my van, because I wanted to box her in. But also, I wanted to build these concrete bollards and then have a sack truck which I could move them in and out my house. But with the weather being so awful, trying to make concrete in wet weather, there'd be just still probably setting. So I need a couple of days of sunshine, and I just nip round to Wickes or somewhere and buy a whole load of ballast and some cement. But weirdly, as a sign, as if to say do it, I walked down to the coast, which is just down there.
Yeah.
I passed a church, and in the churchyard there was a bag of cement just on its own.
That's
and
designed for you.
If only I couldn't have carried it home, because it was, a big bag of cement, and I'm only a poor little feeble bloke. And it would be nicking from the church.
True.
But it was just on its own, a bag. It's probably gone off anyway in that rain.
And it would have been worse if it had split, because then it would have started to calligraphy as you were sort of walking home.
Yeah,
exactly. Bricks.
Mr. Mocky says, pay in Morrison's, you mean? Yes, yes, one would have to pay, of course. And Ed Loud says, when I was staying in Rye, there really was a secret tunnel to the pub. It's no secret anymore.
No.
Not now, you've mentioned it.
It's probably the Mermaid. I don't know if Ed was maybe mentioning the Mermaid Inn, which I spoke to the owner about once, and the fact that they'd uncovered there was a team of archaeologists that went in there before the zombie apocalypse that happened, whatever that was. And they went in there and they found the excavation of the entrance to the tunnel, which would have led to the opposite pub at Rye, which was down the road, which I want to say was I can't remember what it's called, the Bell. I should know, because Rye's my favourite place. But
is it?
Yeah, I love Rye.
I did in one of my videos, The Smugglers of Old Romney Marsh, we interviewed the then landlady of the Mermaid.
Yeah, she's still.
Is she still
Jude,
there? Can't remember her name now.
Judith, I want to say. I can't remember.
It could
now.
be.
Yeah, it's still her.
A blonde lady.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's owned it for years and years.
Oh, right.
Because I've stayed there as well. I've actually stayed there at night. Yeah, it was an interesting experience, because for me, my girlfriend at the time knew I loved Rye. I mean, I could if I was rich, I would move there without a shadow of doubt. It's my place, because it's contained. It's a small historic. It's not too big. It's not Canterbury size. No. It's very contained. But she gave it to me as a surprise, and we went. And then we had really nice meal and stuff. But what was really interesting about it was that I wanted to go at night. So I think at about 11 o'clock at night, went for a really nice moonlit walk all around the church at the top. And I used to go to Rye every Christmas Day as well, because my mum used to do day shifts at a care home. And so I wouldn't see her. So I said, well, I'll just go out for the day. And we went, and I used to always walk around the cobbled streets, and then I'd come up through, and then you'd hear the choir and that lot from the church, and it was absolutely magical, because you've got those cobbled streets in Rye, so it's got that sense.
It's this sort of very, I suppose, like a Dickensian town in a way.
It's a beautiful sort of
out of a Dickens novel or something.
And then you've got Winchelsea, which is just up the road as well.
Oh, so. Yeah, that's another. I mean, these are sort of places in East Sussex that I would very much like to go and explore. It's just that they're about 2 hours from here on a horrible road. Hello, welcome to the show, caller calling in.
Hello, Vobesy. Hello there, Dan.
Hello,
everyone.
it's Ed Loud, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Ed?
Round, squidgy, fat, and happy.
Oh, marvellous. Well, that's the main thing. You won't be happy that I've given up bread, because I know you love making your bread.
Oh, well, I love making bread, but you don't eat my bread, so you can do what you want with your bread.
Yeah, that's true. Your bread is not under threat, is it? We've got Dan here. Do you want to ask Dan a question?
Do you know, I've muted the TV, so I don't know if he's already mentioned this, but I just wondered if he could remember what room he stayed in the Mermaid.
So, yeah,
because obviously that's where I was at Christmas.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you're very lucky. Yeah. So I was in one of the newer builds. So it was what they'd done with the extension. So I can't for the life of me remember it. So as you walk through the Mermaid Inn, it's the far left. So it's literally one of the last rooms on the top as you go down Mermaid Street. So
fantastic.
It was one of the newer builds because they'd sort of expanded it into the extra housing that was sort of there. So it was still old and creaky, but it wasn't as sort of. I mean, the bed. I'm not used to having or seeing one of those big beds. Do you know the ones I talk about where it's just layered like?
What, like?
Did it have like the canopy above it?
No, but it might as well have had. Yeah, it was like a full poster,
yeah.
but without a sort of canopy. So it was. Yeah, you're very lucky to say that. I'd one of the. Even though the girl I went with was my ex, she was incredible to sort of like be so kind for that, and so we are actually still good friends, so it didn't end badly. It was just one of these things. But it was always my dream to actually stay there, so I'll never forget it, and hopefully I can do it again sometime. But the fact you've done that is absolutely amazing.
Look at that.
It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Just hearing you talk about the place, because I've spent so much of my life in that area and never ever stayed there. I pretty much grew up like 15 miles down the road.
Right,
and, I'd heard all about it and seen it 1,000 times, and for one reason or another, never stayed there.
Yeah, because it was odd for me because I'd actually spent a couple of times actually drinking in there, and it's an unusual place to go for a drink because you sort of walk through the alleyway and then you come back in at the back, really. Although that alleyway can lead to the other main part of the high street, but it feels odd to sort of go that way, if that makes sense.
It's like almost like a sort of car park area.
Yeah,
now,
that's right.
And you go through it, and then when you come into the bar, and there's just this massive. Well, they call it the Giant's Fireplace.
That's
don't they?
right.
But
yeah,
it really does look like the BFG would warm his boots there. It's huge.
I'll need to go back again.
And somebody said there's like a I don't know how true it is, but lots of people were taking photographs of like up the chimney. And there's some sort of hidey hole there where people used to hide.
They've got those monks. Monks. I can't remember the name of them, but they were hide holes. Yeah, that's it. Priest holes. Yeah. So thank you for that. I'm brain dead, but yeah, priest holes. They've got a couple of them in there, and it was weird because I was speaking to the owner about it, and I was sort of like, she was so lovely because I was doing some.
Yeah.
I'd done some videos in East Sussex about some secret tunnels and everything else, like vaults, and I just sort of said to her, I know there's tunnels, but can you just help me out? I don't necessarily want to film them. I just want to sort of put it to bed because of the Aldington gang and the Hawkhurst gang who were there. They pretty much own that street.
Judith is so lovely.
That's Judith, that's it. Thank you so much.
I spent a good 15 minutes talking to her, and she's obviously a very busy lady. They've got so many rooms there, and I was really pleased that she just sort of spent her time talking to me. There's so many people nowadays who haven't got time for people, and this was on a busy Christmas Eve. They had the band playing live, and she had lots of things to organise. She's
a lovely lady, and she's got a lot of time.
Place, doesn't she?
She really does.
Her heart is really in it.
But not only that, Rye has adopted her as being almost a semi-custodian of Rye in itself, because the Mermaid Inn is so famous. I mean, if you've seen photos of her, she'll open up events sometimes, and she'll be. I mean, and it's crazy to think that an owner of a pub/hotel has got that much influence on a normal town. But it almost brings it back to that old school mentality of how important pubs and everything were. What we were talking about actually before this.
I would love to very much stay in a beautiful old timber place like that. I must get back in touch with her because I did an interview with her, and I don't know whether she'd remember the old bald explorer bloke, but it'd be lovely to spend a night. I mean, I don't know how expensive it is.
She did remember you.
She did remember me.
She did remember you. Yeah, I told her that I'd seen her on the Bald Explorer years ago, and she asked, like, if you were still making your videos and stuff like that. So she definitely remembered you.
Well, I will get in touch with her then. Judith, did you say it was?
Yes, yeah.
Judith. I must get her, her email address will be on the website. I must get back in touch and say I want to do a feature about staying at the Mermaid Inn and, staying and see if I can get, I'm not after a discount, whatever it is to pay, but I'd love to stay. I've just found this picture of, I assume this is here, but it's on a different website. Here, a four-poster bed, a very sort of Tudor-looking four-poster bed.
Yes, they had one in Dr. Sin's bedchamber, if I remember rightly. I managed to take a peek in there when the last customers cleared off, and they seemed to have a few sort of big four-poster things, but our room had just a sort of pretty standard old double bed and a spare single bed as well.
Yes,
so,
yes. Well, I'm sure.
Passage in the bathroom.
Yeah, she did show us her secret passage when we were last there, and she opened up the door and we walked down stairs, and you could get. I can't remember where it popped out. I think behind the fireplace or somewhere.
Well, I was scared I'd be sitting in the bath and the sort of butler or someone would pop their head round the corner. Secret passage in the bathroom.
Well, it's handy, you ring the bell and then you're sitting there in the bath with bubbles and a big, I nearly said donkey then, but I meant rubber duck. And then the butler comes in, hello, sir. Here's your meal.
Well, there was a lovely night porter. That was his actual title, the night porter. He was really great. He could get you anything, You'd be sitting there talking at 2 a.m. by the fireplace, and this gentleman could just, didn't matter if you wanted a glass of champagne, if you wanted a sandwich, he'd go and fetch it. Absolutely star. All the staff there were just real old school, and I probably enjoyed that more than staying anywhere in my whole life. It was really great.
Yeah. No, it does. I mean, I'm just showing a slideshow from another website which is promoting it, and it doesn't really matter if it's a nice day or even if it's a miserable day like today. If you're inside that environment, it doesn't make much difference. But on a grim day, you can imagine what it was like for the smugglers, for the just the smugglers, but for people who are coming in, looking up, bringing the wood in. Look at that, amazing.
That's what made me call in actually, because Dan was talking about going out 11 at night sort of thing, and that's exactly what me and Alex did. She got her walking boots on and off we went, and we started heading towards sort of my old backyard, New Romney, heading that way, but obviously we didn't go that far. It's a good sort of 12, 13 miles, but we just ended up down all these country lanes that must have been about 1 a.m. and decided to head back, and the mist was creeping in as it does in that area. And it was just really atmospheric, and getting back and being let in at 2 a.m. it was ridiculous, but really atmospheric and reminded me of sort of being a kid and being in the area, and my parents
to me,
Dr. Sin and me thinking he was a real guy. I didn't realise it was just a book till I got older.
Yeah, and but the thing for me, it's so quintessential English. It's one of the things. Now we're coming out of winter, and I want to get back into sort of finding England again, and not just fiddling around in my house, and sorting out my shelves or whatever it is I'm up to. Is to go to places like this and be able to re-interview people like Judith, who's owned this place for a long time. Somebody's just asked out there, Connor McLeod, is it haunted? And find
definitely.
out.
So many people were telling stories of weird things that have happened in their rooms, and there was one lady. She, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, she was an older lady, and she'd stayed there every year for heaven knows how long, and knew the owner. And she had so many stories of strange things that had happened in different rooms. And in one room, according to this lady, they actually had blood dripping down the wall, and someone had died in the room above at a previous time.
Yeah, well, let's hope that doesn't happen when I'm staying there.
I'm glad it wasn't my room.
Is that jam? No, that's very iron. It's iron-like. What does that remind me of every time I cut a lip? Oh yeah, blood. Well, Ed, it's been lovely to catch up with you.
Indeed,
Thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ed. That was really kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, look after yourself.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
we'll talk to you soon. There we go. That's Ed Loud, who is, of course, a well, hasn't been a regular for a while and calling in. It's lovely to hear from him. But he enthuses about the Romney Marshes.
Yeah. I've seen him. I've seen him appear a couple of times on the show before. So, like I said, I've always been a bit nervous to sort of interject. So it's been nice to watch, but it's been so beautiful to sort of see it, and the amazing, really nice comments. Thank you so much.
So let's find out a little bit about how you got going. We've got no videos, by the way, in tonight's show, just in case people were thinking, oh, is there any light relief from all this very serious stuff? There isn't. So Phoenix history.
Yeah.
Where does it come from, and what made you get into making YouTubes about history?
So I'd always had a passion for history, and my parents still are. They might as well be travelling hippies for an old sense of the traditional sense. And my dad used to own a motorbike. He owned many motorbikes, and him and mum would be quite sporadic. They'd just go on a motorbike and go to Cornwall, get some camp, old fashioned
school
way of doing it. You know what I mean?
Love
Innocent.
it.
They'd hike sometimes as well. They sporadically went to Australia and went around the whole coast for about a couple of months, and then that was on their honeymoon after their wedding. That was what they had no money.
A honeymoon for a couple of months.
Yeah,
wow.
Honeymoon and they had no money, so they had to work. So they worked in some of these like these mines that they have in Australia. I can't remember what they're called. Like these little mineral mine types of things. You can get these little mineral types of things. And then they worked in this vine to get oranges and everything else.
Gosh.
And it was amazing. And they just lived off of the land, and they met some incredible people.
So this is in foreign parts.
Yeah. And then
I wonder if you could do
went...
that in the UK. Just trying to get. I'm just thinking that sort of casual labourer job, trying to get work. You can imagine that back in the sort of 20s, 30s. Well, 30s, Big Depression, but you can imagine it back in the old times. But these days, it's like papers, please. How people would do that in the UK.
Yeah, because my dad had come out of the army and he'd got all this money saved over. So he was stationed in Germany and he'd got all this money because long story short, he bought his way out of the army because all his friends were having way too much fun. Outside. And this is obviously in the sort of 60s,
right?
So a period when it was just literally the birth of adventure, I always think, really, like in a modern day context, before sort of like the time before that. And my mum had.
But do you mean adventure overseas?
Everywhere,
because then people were doing the package holidays.
Yeah,
weren't they?
so they were. So they, I mean, Wales, Scotland, Cornwall. They've been to everywhere in England, and they'd never been to Ireland. I don't think was the only place. And then they went to Europe, went to Holland. But Australia was their big one because they literally only had enough money for a ticket for the plane.
Right.
And then they literally just lived their way off of all of that. And because my dad was in the army, he knew how to drive lots of different vehicles.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
So he was always really good with motorbikes and everything else. And my mum was a bit younger than my dad, so she just went along for the adventure and the ride. And I think I literally got bitten by that. And even when I was a young kid.
So did they take you?
Yeah, they did. So when I was in one of those papooses.
Oh yeah,
what I mean, like back in. But I always used to remember it was always quite smelly because it smelled of like mothball jumpers. Do you know what I mean? Like a weird smell, like a really old school smell. Don't worry.
Yes, I have mothball jumpers.
But
cheeky.
Yeah. And that was it. And I think then I became a musician, and then I just got the bug for doing this. But then
so hang on. You could just
sorry.
Then we're travelling around the world, and then I became a musician, just like that. It's like then I suddenly was a brain surgeon.
I started playing guitar from about the age of 10.
Right.
And it was I have obviously mental health.
What do you mean? You have mental health?
I don't know. Look at me. I look depressed.
By that, you don't look depressed.
No, I'm joking.
You're laughing and smiling.
I know. I'm happy.
So when you say you've got mental health, I don't mean to pry.
No, that's okay. So because I made a
mean?
video on it. So I made a video on the channel. So I started when I was at the age of 10. I started with what they called like severe stress forms. So I was sort of stuttering a little bit. I was shaking. I used to go to the toilet a lot. I used to take everything seriously.
Now none of that springs from the mothball cardigans, does it?
No. So it was just one of these things that from the age of 10, I just everything sort of seemed to be a big deal, and I used to get stressed from it, even on minor things. So even if I went out for a dinner with my parents, I'd enjoy it, but I'd be very, nervous, shaking,
nervous that
stuttering.
some things would go wrong.
I was 10. I didn't really understand it, so I didn't really understand why I was the way I was. I mean, I love my parents, and they were brilliant. I couldn't have asked for better parents. It wasn't a PTSD type of scenario. No. And then,
but you shot both of them and dug them in the garden.
That was it. Yeah, my new parents are amazing. Yeah. The new ones. And then by the time I was 16, obviously hormones and everything kick in, and I just completely fell apart. I had a eating disorder, not through choice. I just couldn't keep. Sorry, I don't want to depress everyone.
No, but you know, the thing is that thousands of people. If only we had thousands of people, but people will identify with that because they've either gone through something similar themselves, or they know somebody who's gone through something similar. We've all gone through.
I've never used it as an excuse, but the problem that I had was when you have stuff like that at the age of 10. Your brain doesn't fully process.
No.
It's not ready to adapt to it, which is when people... So, like, by the time I was 16 and I was trying to discover myself, which we all do when we're teenagers, I went into a band, and then music basically saved me for a lot of time. But it also, like, exacerbated it because I'd be gigging, I'd be nervous, I'd be doing all this stuff, and yet I was getting really good. The music that I was involved in was doing really brilliant.
What style of music were you doing?
So originally it was alternative music, because that was just what it was back then. I mean, like, you know, and we were doing really well. I mean, like, I'd literally... So I was 16, so I didn't go to sixth form. I went to college, and I had to leave college towards the end doing music because the band was just going on tour. And this was... We were 16, so my dad... And our parents still had to take us to these gigs. Like, it was crazy, and we were.
And what were the gigs? What were the sort of gigs that you were getting?
Proper.
Like
I mean, they were big
and...
gigs, like proper venue types of gigs.
Like
so
O2, you did the O2. Did the O2, ladies and gentlemen?
Like, I mean, like probably proper venue gigs, like Thomas Charles Forum. Like, there's a place like that. There's a couple of places in Canton. Unfortunately, most of them aren't really here anymore now. And I was just sort of doing that, but unfortunately, it made it worse. I was really, really painfully skinny because I just couldn't keep any food down.
And how when you were with the band themselves, were they, supportive of you, or?
We were all the same age, so we all didn't understand what was going on.
Right.
And I was the worst because, unfortunately, I was also the songwriter, which didn't make it good for interviews because I didn't want to do interviews.
Right.
Because I just couldn't talk. I was stuttering. It took me a lot to sort of stop my brain from calming down, basically.
Yeah.
It was constantly sort of going at 20 miles an hour and, constant. And it was difficult. But on the same token, I'm a big believer in positivity. And I do think to myself that throughout the years, even at my age now, I still have it, and I accept that it won't go away. But what I also accept is it can also be turned into a positive, and it can help other people.
So it's interesting. Then you got into your music and your band, and you had this thing in which you got nervous about doing the thing, which everybody gets nervous about performing. But it's interesting that you deliberately chose something in which people will be watching you whilst you're doing so. And now you've transitioned from that to YouTube. Do you find that easier because the audience is somewhat remote?
Yeah, but yeah, I do, I suppose. I mean, like, I'm the master of my own fate in that respect. Probably the same as your channel. You can decide what you want to do. But I'd always been exploring, and it was my one outlet outside of music, because music became a job.
And you can do that on your own?
Yeah.
On your own terms?
Yeah, exactly. And music became a job for me. And I loved it, because obviously it was my passion, and it still is my number one passion out of everything. I love history and music are the two things for me. But I'd always explored out of that. And exploring gave me that sort of release where I wouldn't normally get it. It was going outside, like we talked about in Harrison's, like being outdoors, experiencing nature, but doing it with a purpose, understanding history. And I'd always loved history from my parents. I mean, like in obviously Richard's room, we've got loads of books. I mean, my parents were exactly the same. My dad loved history. My mum loved history. My mum loved nature, so I learnt nature and conservation from my mum. And I learnt history from my dad and my grandparents. And it was just that perfect acceptability that I was just sort of going out. Unfortunately, it didn't bode well on tours sometimes because, like a classic case, an example, we went on tour and I was in Lincoln. And I'd gone missing for a couple of hours because I just wanted to explore the Lincoln and the history.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then I got complete. This was the days before, like, Android phones and stuff.
Oh,
and
so
I was trying to actually ask someone, go, do you know where this venue is? So I've got to be at, it's right at the opposite end of Lincoln. I'm like, oh, God, like this sort of thing. Then our manager or our band members are like, where are you?
Conor McLeod wants to know what the band you were in was called.
no, we won't
go down
divulge
there.
in all that
sorry
stuff.
about
If that's
that.
okay, sorry. I just want to. Yeah.
No,
They weren't. To be fair, with all of that, I was lucky that I've transitioned into a few bands, and obviously then I've gone into folk music, which is still what I'm doing now. So that's obviously an amalgam of history and.
Do you ever bring your musical skills into your video?
It helps. I mean, it helps in terms of I do it the opposite way around. So the history actually inspires me for the locations and stuff to bring into the music.
Right.
It's the opposite way around.
Right.
If that makes
Because
sense.
I kind of pictured you, there you are in the ruined abbey of some description with a lute.
I would
or
love
something,
it if that was the case.
And be able to go,
Yeah.
"Dring, there once was a monk who lived here alone. Dring, ding, ding, ding. The poor little monk had to go, 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 go. Drong, dong, dong, dong."
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Which would be, would be a little moment in the middle of your videos.
It was, but that's the thing is that I mean, just with age, really, I sort of got into folk music more, and I really appreciated it, and I think that's the thing that I love doing now. And not only that, for sheer ease, like back in the day, if you're in a full band, equipment and everything else, whereas now, acoustic guitar or a folk instrument, because like we talked about before, I play many different folk instruments. They're all acoustic. It's literally just put it on your rucksack and away you go.
And away you go. So
Instead
travelling
bring
light.
amps and everything else and all this stuff. So.
Colonel Crowrad says, I've seen the pictures, just waiting for a moment, Colonel, to display them, but now is a good moment, as you've just so mentioned it. This is one of our viewers, Colonel Crowratty, climbing at Harrison's Rocks, where we went, where you introduced me to it, and we met for the first time. I'm not sure which one. I guess he must be in the turquoise, clambering up. I guess you know exactly where that position is.
That's where we saw it when we were looking across. That's on when we walked down the steps to get into Harrison's Rocks.
Ah, right.
When we're looking straight across, it's we're walking and it's literally on it. Yeah.
And so there he is, clambering up those sandstone rocks.
Brilliant photos.
And the last one is a rather bloody one, I'm afraid, where he fell and all his limbs fell off and was crushed by a rock and was never seen again. That might be a lie, of course. Thank you very much, Colonel Cragratty. It's very lovely to see you clambering up those rocks.
Brilliant picture.
And somebody was telling me that you can't just go chipping into it.
No, I think it's. I'm not sure. I don't. I mean, like I said, it's been a very long. I mean, we're talking over 20 years ago since I last went rock climbing. I mean, I can't remember offhand. I never used to go on my own, and I was always a bit. I'll let them do that, and I'll just tag along. In other words, I'll put the harness on and I'll get rid of it and da. But I never really paid much attention to the knots or anything else like that. I was just because I just enjoyed that. Really, I didn't want to. Yeah.
It's it's a fascinating thing, but I don't think I could. I don't think I've not got a strong head for heights. So I don't think I once had to abseil down something like 30 or 40 foot platform as a robot. Okay. I was at this. I don't know whether it was Scouts. So it was some outdoor adventure thing for young people, and they wanted this entertainer. So they booked a robot, and I was dressed up in leather, sprayed my face silver, and all this. I'm walking around like all this. And somebody said, "Oi, Mr. Robot, come here." And they led me up there. I had no idea where I was going. I just walked up these stairs, up to the top of this tower as a robot. And then at the top, they said, "Oh, come on in, get the harness on him." And I had to abseil down, and I did it robotically, which was quite amazing.
That's pretty good.
And the thing is, I was so busy focused on my movements, I had no concept of how high I was until afterwards. I went, "Oh, crikey!"
I think we mentioned at Harrison's Rocks. I think with heights, it's like anything. Is that the more you do it, it's like the way I always describe it is it's like when you're at a swimming pool and you've got those diving platforms. So you start on a small one, in other words, height wise. Yeah. Get adjusted to that, get really comfortable with that, and then go up a little bit further, And I think that's how. I think I do what I do is that you just adapt to sort of start smaller, get used to that feeling, go up. But the only problem is it's when you're with other people, that's what makes it bad. Because if other people have got vertigo or anything, it does feed off of you. You're like, I'm fine. And then it's the same thing with like being paranormal. If you go into a haunted building, it's like you might be totally fine, but if somebody's next to you shaking, going like this sort of thing, it's like. And I think that was funny enough the same with mental health and anxiety. Being on tour, and I'm like shaking and can't control it. Bless the other guys, they were probably quite okay with it, but it just, it's amazing how it connects in a strange way.
So of the places that you visit on your because you travel around quite a bit. I mean, I'm quite sedentary really to what you do. I mean, I'd like to be able to just nip in the van and suddenly go to Norfolk and then the next week go to somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I'm not like that really. I like to sort of have a tour of somewhere and then rather than flit here and there. But I guess that comes from when you were touring in the band. It's no biggie to just jump in the car and go
it's
200 miles.
It's a difficult thing to train yourself. And I think the worst thing is that it's... Obviously, we were talking about loneliness, and in fact, obviously, for me, I struggle with loneliness even more so now. But if you're in a relationship or you've got a partner, it does make those journeys worthwhile if they're on the same page as you.
Yes.
Otherwise, it can be quite a drag. And I wouldn't say I'm sporadic by nature, but my body does let me know. It's a weird feeling. It's like, okay, come on, we've got to... You're probably the same, maybe. If you want to feel like you've been stuck indoors for so long, your body actually tells you, almost kicks you out the door itself. Yeah. It's like, come on, let's just go. And I think I'm the same with that. But I have to, unlike you, I have to plan my journey because I have to sort of do it just to know what's there. But I'm also stoic in the same time of... I also enjoy... Like I think we spoke about in Harrison's Rocks, the journey sometimes is just as important as where you get. And if it's a... Sometimes the gigs that I've always remembered have been the worst ones because they've been more fun than you like talking about when you're performing.
Well, certainly
like,
afterwards.
You always remember,
afterwards you remember the bad gigs sometimes.
But you laugh.
But you laugh because it's funny after the event. At the time, sometimes, and it's often interesting when I'm filming stuff. I always think it's be far funnier or much more interesting when things go wrong, and and because afterwards it makes a great feature because everybody loves everything to go wrong. It's like if the ceiling started caving in now, it would be great. We might be a bit stressed by it, but people would love it.
Yeah,
it's very difficult when you're filming especially in the style that I film, where I put the thing on the tripod and you film a bit here and you cut to another shot and cut over there. It's all very quite mechanical. And in a way, it would be great to have a cameraman who's with you when things go wrong.
Absolutely.
The cameraman just films, but he's getting the shots.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree.
When you're there and things go wrong, half the time you can't film it because you're dealing with the tire's burst or there's been an accident over there and you don't want to get the camera out and film it or whatever because you're dealing with the situation. But if you had a cameraman, he would get all that and then in the edit you go, I hated it, I hated that moment. But look how the footage is just brilliant. That's going to make such an excellent episode. And that's one of the paradoxes that we have when we're filming ourselves. And half the time, I look back at some of the stuff you do, and you think, if only we'd filmed this, and if only we'd filmed that, it would have been more interesting. But it was just not so easy to do.
It's worse actually sometimes when people tell you that you've missed out on a bit that might be there, and that's not their fault. It's you're just kind of like, wow, like,
go down the comment road, and there you are. You walk along something, and they say, Richard, you walk straight past the thing. That's a 500-year-old and I can't believe you, idiot, you stupid imbecilic person. I didn't know it was there. And also, you leave things out because you're trying to tell a story.
Yeah, I agree.
Of whatever it is. And people think that you've done things or you've just been an idiot. And you think, no, I'm not talking about that. Hello, welcome to the Vobes Show. Hello, who's there?
Good evening. Am I through to Long John?
Yes, Long John's Vobe
Silver.
Here. Long John Vobe here with his... lovely white legs on display like a Victorian boxer. Is that Terry Banton from Southwater? Stick 'em up.
Well, I've just come up from the Crypt.
Oh, have you?
In Southwater.
Did you creep up?
Yeah.
You crept then?
Yeah, I was having a dust out.
Excellent. Well, there've been a lot of cobwebs down there. Dan is here if you want to ask him a question.
I've come late to the show, but
that's all right.
Have you mentioned his Phoenix history video about Rochester Cathedral?
We've sort of touched on it about the crypt. Have you been there?
The vaults.
Yeah,
he's been down the vaults, hasn't he?
He's been down the vaults. 240 of them.
Yeah. What impressed me about that video was. In the vaults, I didn't see any gold. I think Gordon Brown sold off all the gold from the vaults.
Yeah, probably.
The lighting was fantastic, I thought.
Yeah, it was what I mentioned it actually really interestingly in the video, which is that I'm a spiritual person, so that's a whole another story for another day. But it was really interesting because obviously that place is reputed to be extremely haunted in Rochester, and I didn't really sort of gauge it. I mean, it's kind of weird. I sort of mentioned in the video I've been to many pubs in Rochester, and because I'm not too far away, and I've also gigged in many of them, but the lighting, she was mixing the lighting with one of those remote controlled lighting.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. That wasn't spelled. Just giving a quick trailer of your video as we talk.
So she was mixing about the lighting on the video, and what was really interesting was she said, "I've never done it before," and it started flickering really badly, and then she lit the candles around there, and it was kind of like, it was beautiful. So thank you so much for lighting, because I was genuinely worried in there. It was like I was thinking, oh, it might be a bit dark, but it seems to have come out with the details. So I'm glad you liked it. Thank you.
Look at that.
Have you
Amazing.
heard of Sonne Lumiere? They used to go around Chichester Cathedral years back, had Sonne Lumiere, and they had do all this fancy lighting, and it was a history of Chichester Cathedral. We all sat there in the chancel, I think, listening to it all.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid I don't. But I mean, I'm very interested in that. I mean, like I said, one of my other videos that I did in a crypt. I've done 2 crypts actually recently. I did Hive Church, which is obviously famous because it's got the ossuary. Ossuary?
Oh, yeah.
Ossuary?
Yeah, with the skulls.
And there's only 2 in all of England, which is one there's in Hive, and then there's one in Northamptonshire, I want to say that's where it is, or Bedfordshire. And then the other crypt that I did was at St Pancras Church, and it was amazing because that's now an art gallery. But what was really good was that it was used as an area shelter, like many churches were in World War II. And that is an incredible place just to sort of realise that was World War II history and everything else on top of that. So yeah, I'm really glad you liked it though. Thank you so much.
Yes, you ought to do Tales of the Crypt.
Oh, I think I will. Yeah, I'll have to. I'm currently in talks with a few other crypts at the moment, mostly for their repurposing, really, because I like the idea of like it's not just a crypt; it's got dual purpose or dual functions on it. So I'm hoping that they might accept my invitation to hopefully do some more on those, because they are fascinating and they've got incredible. You probably know. I mean, they've got incredible atmospheres in them. So yeah.
Yeah, lots of good stuff on your channel there. Just lots of curious places that I've never heard of. I was just trying to find the Hythe one.
There, straight down, next one down. That's it.
That one. Yeah. Oh yeah, the crypt. Here we go. Let's have I'm asked, but let's just dive straight into the middle. Hold on, let me get somewhere in the middle. Have a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. There we are. If you like skulls and bones, you get a lot. Is that accessible to anybody?
Yep. So I had special permission to film it at the time because they're only open on seasonal occasions, and obviously because of again the dreaded zombie apocalypse, that it was shut for a while. But yeah, I was very lucky to sort of film in there, and the gentleman who let me was really kind, and he obviously facilitated extra bits of history. I love Hive as well. I mean, Hive's such a beautiful town. A very underrated Kent town, I think, personally. Had a lot of amazing memories there, but brilliant place.
Do you know, I had a holiday in Winchelsea once.
Because I've done a video on Spike Milligan's grave.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, and Winchelsea Gates and Winchelsea. Well, it wasn't a hospital. It was the ruin, which is of the almshouse, which is there, which is just literally a facade. But yeah, I love Winchelsea as well because it's just so beautiful there. So
is that sort of coastal part of East Sussex that you...
Have you been into that church? Because it's well worth it. No. Really, because half of it's ruined. Well, not half of it, but there's a section of it which is ruined as well. So you sort of walk... And the best thing about that is that it's a perfect example, if nobody's ever been, it's a perfect example of a medieval setup, square.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
interconnecting, just literally just that. But what was interesting about that was that it had been moved from... It was originally on the seafront, but it had got obviously waves. And
waves, yeah. There was a big storm.
They moved it higher up. That's right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, it goes right back to what Edward the First or something like that.
Yeah, because it was raided as well by the
French.
Was it? It might be French or Dutch. I want to say it might have been some. Well, I can't remember offhand, but it was definitely raided, and that was really interesting. So I've done a few videos, not actually on the church exclusively, but Smite Milligan's grave, the Winchelsea Gates, and the almshouse that's there.
Yeah, they've got the sink ports, haven't they, all along that stretch of the coast.
Yeah, and a great place there if you need a new pair of taps, and especially if you want those one little rubber things you get at the bottom of the sink. Yes, of course, the sink port. Sorry, I got confused.
Yeah. Sink as in five.
Yes, yes, French for five. I think I've got an outtake of me trying to list the sink ports in my outtakes video, and we did it about 5 or 6 times because there's actually 7 of the sink ports if I remember right.
I'm trying to think now
because they added 2. They added 2 more, and and I was going through. I'm walking at the same time. Hang on, I might have to find it now just to see if we can see it. Vobes outtakes hang on a minute, outtakes. Let's see if that bones outtakes. That's not what we want. You swine. Because it's not going to come up. Maybe bald explorer or bloopers. I don't know. Hang on, a bald.
Oh, I see a skull there. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Bald explorer. I believe he did some out. Here we go. I'll see if I can very quickly find it somewhere.
That was Thomas Becket Church, isn't it? Or Thomas Becket Church, I suppose, depending on your...
Depending
if you want the in there.
Here we go. This is the sequence coming up. I don't know if you'll hear this. Let's see if you will. I just do a little bit. Golly, I was a bit fatter in the face in this, I can tell you. It's just after this bit.
But how do you stop not all goods? You see, the Confederation of Sink Port...
Oh, I've just realised that's probably... I can't play it because that music is going to give me a copyright strike.
Don't.
Oh, yeah. So I can play it without the sound, which is irrelevant, really. But I was trying to list these. Yeah, it was an issue with the music on that. I was desperately trying to get all the sink ports listed, and I just kept going wrong time after time. No, that's not the same part. Anyway,
I don't know whether Dan's heard of the group called the Beatles
back
in the early 60s.
Yeah, the Beatles. They're mates of the Cockroaches, aren't they?
Yeah.
George Harrison and his song "My Guitar Gently Weeps." That's very nice. I like that one.
Also, Paul McCartney's windmill, or the windmill, his studio is up at the top of behind Winchelsea as well. So his actual recording studio that he has actually up at the top of... I've stood outside it, as many tourists have, but you do get some funny looks. You come to see him, and
yeah, George Harrison died when at the age of 58 in 2001, so he was quite a young man, but he was a very heavy smoker, and I suppose he killed himself.
Well, I suppose...
Smoking.
Yeah, well, they say smoking kills, don't they? And if you've ever tried using smoke on insects and things, it does actually do that. I don't know why I mentioned that, really. It's just...
Anyway, I think I've chatted long enough.
It's been lovely to have you on the show, Terry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, you'll have to do a compilation of your outtakes sometime, Richard and Dan.
Yes.
I never have any outtakes.
It's funny because I only the outtakes that I ever have that are any worth watching are the ones in which I've scripted the show, which is... I don't do that now. Nothing's scripted. It's all off the cuff. That's why it's so rubbish. And when it was scripted, because invariably you get a word wrong, and then you go, oh, hang on a minute, I said that wrong, or you pronounced it in the wrong way, or you can't remember it, or something else happened. Whereas ordinarily, now when I'm going along, things happen, and I just let it go in. So there's no outtakes.
So yeah,
it's nice to see Dan and hear his voice, and he can go back to his cave in the Harrison's Rocks area.
Thank you so much. It's really kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, take care, Terry.
Thank you.
Cheers, then.
Bye. There we go. Terry Banton there from a small cave in Southwater. We've only got 5 minutes of the show left, so if you want to give a quick tinkle and have a quick chat with Dan, you'd be very welcome. 0793 4746 790 is the number. That number again?
0793 4746 790.
See?
Or zero.
Or zero. Like 007.
Just don't
Sorry,
put the letter
007.
O. Yeah.
It's a funny old thing.
Do you remember we used to do that with like letters on numbers? What we still do. Do you remember phones like...
Oh, phones had number, yeah.
And then you'd have the letters.
Like one had ABC and two had DEF. and you could spell words and things.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember any of that.
No, of course.
Yes. Julia says, not every day, just an extra day, as Dan was able to be here. Oh, she's answering somebody. Here we go. Another quick call to probably the last call of the show. Hello, caller. Welcome to. How are you? Who are you?
Absolutely fine, sir. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Colonel Craig Ratty, how the devil? I've just asked that. Yeah, you just said it, didn't you? Sorry, it was on automatic pilot, you see. Far away. Dan is here for your inspection.
Oh, well, he looks very smart.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, you're a colonel, aren't you? You know, you inspect. I'm sure you're.
Yes. Only a YouTube colonel.
Oh, right.
Real one,
not a real. Yeah, I know.
I was just showing those climbing pictures of Harrison's Rock because Dan was had been there. And the answer to the question is yes. You can't stop digging holes in the rock because it's sandstone. So you
just
have
crumbles.
Yeah,
you have a stake at the top, and you have to go to the top of the climb and put the rope round the stake and lower it down, and then you go down to the bottom and then climb up it as shown in the pictures, so that you don't damage the sandstone.
Yeah, when we were there, Dan actually showed me these little loopholes that you presumably is what you put your rope into, and then you abseil down or fall.
What you normally do is you put the rope in, throw the rope down so that it's from the ground up to the loop and then back down again, and then you clamber back down to the bottom and then tie on and then climb up and then walk off again. So it's all a bit of a faff. Hence the reason, as I said the other day, I've only been there than once, and it's 2-hour drive for us to get down there. So we prefer to go other places where you can climb
like Everest.
It's not quite.
Which is a little bit closer to home, isn't it?
Yes, I mean.
Where are you? Somewhere in the Himalayas or something?
No.
Fairham.
Yes, Swanage is our nearest.
Swanage,
Yeah, so proper hard rock, so you can use gear and.
Oh, that's hard, We go down the street, you see that rock coming, oh no. If you were sandstone, I'd see you, mate, but a bit of granite coming down.
Yeah, rock that doesn't come off in your hand when you grab hold of it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Oh, that's. It's all good.
Obviously, for the people that live in the area, it's a local crag, and they enjoy climbing it. But having done it once, it's been there, done it, and not bother again.
It's an interesting area, that whole area, because of this outcrop of rock. It just sort of, you stumble across it in the middle of nowhere. Suddenly, I remember doing a walk fairly near Tunbridge Wells. I'm just trying to think. There was a National Trust property that's quite famous nearby, and then there's this little outcrop, and it just reminds you that that's under your feet as well.
Well,
that's right.
Yeah, I was sort of saying. I mean, obviously, the Ardingly Sandstone Group. That's what we were sort of saying, was that natural ridgeline that sort of forms between.
Well, it's always fascinating me, because when you look at a geological map of the UK, considering it's quite a small area of land compared to America and Europe, the rest of it. And the stratas of different rock that come across. So you've got sandstone down in Kent, and you've got granite up in Wales, and you've got gritstone in the Peak District, and you've got limestone here, and it's all sorts of different types of rocks. And that's the nice thing about climbing in this country, is that you can climb on probably 6 or 7 completely different types of rock, all within sort of 300 or 400 miles of each other.
I think this is the reason. I mean, then you've got red sandstone as well, if you know that, which is obviously further up, obviously towards sort of like Stoke and Derbyshire sort of way, where you get that beautiful
a lot of
red
in Shrewsbury.
I was going to say Shrewsbury.
Well, yes, I mean, as well, I've done a lot of climbing up in the Peak District, and you've got the limestone peak, and you've also got the gritstone, which is very similar to the sandstone, but a lot harder. So you can use gear, and it's a little bit more substantial.
But the great thing about the geology of this country, as you've just explained so eloquently, Colonel Craig Ratty, with all the different stratas and the different types of rock, is of course that is what it's the building materials for a lot of people were, so that you go 100 miles down the road and suddenly the houses are different, the construction is different.
I mean, you've got clay in the south, haven't you? All the clay, all the red bricks,
chalk and flint, and you've got
sandstone, and
elliptic sandstone and limestone, and all of it's what I mean. So as you described, such a small little island really has this incredible charm of all these different styles.
I think this is the thing that I sort of make in my when I talk about these types of things, is that, like you said before, is I think people seem to sort of, it's very underrated. Like when you see Harrison's Rocks, that geology is so beautifully perfect and constructed that, like, you forget that it's here, like you said before. And I think that that's the point of the whole Ardingly sandstone group that we have in the southeast, is that that's easily the most dramatic geology that we have here, and yet it's accessible. And yet most people don't realise it, because they think that you have to go to America, like the Colonel was saying, or like somewhere like that to sort of experience it. And unless you're in the southeast in this particular, literally it's a tiny circle of where this is really. I mean, it's like, you know. And unless you're up north, like what the Colonel was saying, obviously where I've been to, which is, like you said, Shropshire, or even when you go further up to Derbyshire and areas like that, where you see these different geology.
The Lake District.
The Lake District, or Cheddar Gorge, obviously.
Yeah, Cheddar Gorge.
Somerset, Wiltshire area. Like, when you've got that, but there's small pockets of it. And we don't, it's not like in America where you have swathes, which you might as well be like the size of England. I mean, like,
you go to America and you've got to travel sort of thousands of miles to get from one type of area to another.
Absolutely, we have it all in a nice, lovely little package, and we should promote it more. But you know, we don't really want too many.
Plus the fact they're driving the wrong side of the road as well.
Well, there's that. There's nothing worse than driving on the wrong side of the road and say somewhere like Australia and a kangaroo overtakes you. Listen, Colonel Kroger, we're going to have to send you on your way, because we've come to the end of the show, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lovely to talk to you. Thanks for sending those pictures in, by the way.
Yeah, well, I shall catch you tomorrow then.
Yeah, do. It'd be lovely to get your video.
Yes, I will send it in the morning.
Fantastic, good man. Take care.
Okay,
thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Dan.
Bye.
Cheers, Dan. Thanks. Bye.
There we are. That's Colonel Craig Ratty from a rock face near you. Dan, we're coming to the end of the show. That hour goes so very quickly.
Does, actually,
and of course, we could go on for ages, but we won't, because hopefully you'll come back and do another show.
I'd love to. Yeah, if I haven't put anybody off, I'd love to sort of, like, I mean, you know, it's a really honour to sort of do it and just
we absolutely, it's great for me to have guests, because I don't have to work as hard, and also it gives people something to new.
I know it's a bit intense. I do apologise today if this one was a bit intense and a bit sort of history and a bit like that sort of thing.
They lap it up. They love it, especially if it is intense. Sometimes they like it in caravans and motorhomes, but often intense is far better.
I just got that.
So Phoenix history, bung it into YouTube, check out all your wonderful videos. The most recent one there is in George's vaults.
Yeah, and then tomorrow there'll be one at a culvert in Leicestershire, a very special one. It's a medieval one. So
medieval culvert, yeah. And you do a lot of folklore stories.
Yeah, folklore stories at the weekend. So this weekend, Saturday, will either be the story of the Tooth Fairy, how we came about the Tooth Fairy. I'm doing some really cheesy ones at the moment. Or a famous murder of Bluebell Hill, not the ghost, because I've already done that, but a famous murder that happened at Bluebell Hill is in Medway. Yeah, Maidstone.
And what we didn't mention, and maybe we'll get onto this next time you come, is you're an ex-teacher.
Yes.
Which is why the history, but that's a sort of, because you put history lessons into your...
That's probably an interesting story why I sort of
structure it the way
I do, maybe, and stuff.
It's interesting. Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much to Dan then for coming in. Thanks everyone for tuning in on our special Tuesday night. I'm not sure if the lovely Julia's coming in on tomorrow for Wednesday or Friday. She has yet to let me know. But it's probably Friday, I think. So look forward to that. Next Tuesday, Ricky is back. So we'll have an extra special show on Tuesday, and of course the lovely Julia probably Friday and Monday, so all good stuff. Unfortunately, I'll be in all of them, so you don't get away from me that easily, so I'm sorry about that. But anyway, there we go. Thank you very much. Thanks to Julia and Judith for making sure nobody misbehaved, and if they did, they've probably got dents on their heads. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it really means a lot. And thank you so much for the really kind comments that have been out there. It's been beautiful. I know, obviously, I've followed your channel for a while now, almost come up to 5 years, but I've never really sort of interacted. But that's just because I've always been a bit reluctant to... We spoke about this.
It's surreal? Was it bad?
No, it's amazing. Obviously,
I feel like... camera?
The Harrison's Rock thing was such a beautiful... I still think that's one of the best videos that I've seen and the fact that it was nice to talk to somebody like you who's got very similar passions. But today, it was a surreal and beautiful experience, and I'm very grateful for the kind words and all the comments that have been coming in. So thank you so much.
Brilliant. Well, there we go. That's it. Back again tomorrow, same time, same place. Something equally jolly and fun. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. And if you have enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up on the thing. We've had lovely numbers on a Tuesday, so that's been really great. And until next time, from Dan and I,
bye.
Goodbye.